It's Sunday the 10th of March, and unfortunately we have a second fatal aircraft accident of the Boeing 737 brand new MAX aircraft, this time flight 302 from Ethiopian Airlines out of Addis Ababa Airport on a flight from Addis Ababa to Nairobi. The first crash of the new 737 MAX aircraft was less than 6 months ago in Indonesia, and here's what we know so far about this crash in Ethiopia. As reported by Simon Radecki on the Aviation Herald, an Ethiopian Boeing 737-8 MAX registered as Echo Tango Alpha Victor Juliet performing flight as Ethiopian Airlines flight number 302 from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia to Nairobi, Kenya, with 149 passengers and 8 crew, departed Addis Ababa's runway 07 right and was climbing out when the aircraft leveled off at about 9,000 feet MSL, that's above sea level. Radar contact was lost shortly thereafter at 8:44, that's about only 6 minutes later. No survivors were found. The aircraft crash site is near Bishoftu, Ethiopia, about 17 miles south-southeast of the airport. There were no survivors, and the aircraft carries citizens from 33 different countries. In a subsequent press conference on March 10th, Ethiopian Airlines reported the crew reported difficulties and requested a return to the airport. The captain was with Ethiopian Airlines for 9 years and had about 8,000 hours of flight experience. A first officer with just 200 hours assisted. Now, I don't know, I suspect these numbers, the 8,000 hours and the 200 hours of flying experience, are for these pilots' time with the airline in the 737 aircraft. I would be hard-pressed to believe that 200 hours total flight time is the experience of the first officer. The crash site appears to be consistent with a steep dive. The aircraft had undergone last rigorous first check maintenance on 24 February of 2019. The last flight was from Johannesburg. The last transponder data was received about 21 miles east of the airport at flight level 086. Terrain elevation at that point is 8,130 feet above the ground. Flight level 086 was reported by the Mode S transponder, and if you correct that to QNH, indicated that the aircraft was flying at about 9,027 feet MSL. So that means at the point where radar contact was lost, the aircraft was just about 1,000 feet above the terrain. Weather at the airport was basically good, with winds favoring a runway 7 departure, takeoff to the east. The pictures of the impact indicate a very high-speed impact into the ground. There are reports of the aircraft exploding when it hit the ground. And post-crash fire. Here's Addis Ababa Airport. Here was the last ADS-B position, and here is the crash site. Runway 7 departure to the east would send the aircraft out this way. So does this indicate that the aircraft was turning on its way to Nairobi, or does this indicate that the crew was trying to turn around and return back to the airport? Too early to tell. Here's some out-of-date Jeppesen plates for Addis Ababa Airport, HAAB, Boli International. 12,000 foot long runway, but note the airport elevation is fairly high at 7,500 feet. Here's a picture of the new 737 MAX aircraft that was involved in this incident. Echo Tango Alpha Victor Juliet, Ethiopian Airlines. Flight Radar 24 was able to capture the aircraft's first 3 minutes of ADS-B data, automatic dependent surveillance broadcast data, as the aircraft departed to the east. If we look at this outdated standard instrument departure to the east, At 19 DME, aircraft should be at or above or at 12,500 feet. The initial report indicated that radar contact was lost 21 miles east at just over 9,000 feet, indicating the aircraft was below the desired altitude for this instrument departure and placing the aircraft within 1,000 feet of the terrain. Flight Radar 24 was able to granulate the ADS-B data for the first 3 minutes of the flight, the critical remaining 3 minutes of the flight, in fact all the data for the entire flight. The accurate data will not be known until the data recorders are recovered from the wreckage. But here's what we know so far from the ADS-B data. Blue line representing altitude, starting out at a field elevation just over 7,000 feet and only climbing up to a little over 9,000 feet, placing the aircraft within 1,000 feet of the terrain when the radar data was lost. The red line indicates ground speed in knots. We have a better data line for that. But it's this green line, the vertical speed, that so many folks are scrutinizing. Here you can see the aircraft rolling down the runway and then rotating and climbing out initially at a rate of 2,000 feet per minute. And then it quickly drops off down to 0 feet per minute, followed by another climb, another 0 feet per minute, another positive rate of climb, followed by a 2,000 foot per minute descent rate, followed by another climb, and yet another climb to level before loss of radar data. Here's a better look of the ground speed as the aircraft accelerates down the runway and then climbing out and steadily increasing from 200 knots up to over 370 knots before radar data is lost about 3 minutes into the flight. On departures on these airline aircraft, you typically rotate and initially climb out at what's called V2, a single engine climb speed. It's a relatively low airspeed, producing a high rate of climb until about 1,000 feet or so above the ground. At that point, often the engine power is reduced for a reduced climb out to save wear and tear on the engines. The nose of the aircraft is lowered and your rate of climb should decay down to about 500 feet per minute as you accelerate the aircraft to clean up the aircraft and accelerate to your climb speed in the clean configuration. So you should see the vertical speed initially quite high up to 1,000 feet and then decay to about 500 feet per minute, and then the speed increase to your normal climb out speed, and then your rate of climb increase again upwards of about 2,000 feet per minute. In this case, to me, it appears that the aircraft did not climb as high as it normally would be on this departure out of this airport. Was this a failure of the controversial new MCAS system in the 737 MAX aircraft lineup? It's simply too early to tell. Nevertheless, at an altitude of just 1,000 to 2,000 feet above the ground gives the aircrew very little time to react if in the event there is a controllability problem. Two things we learned about the new MCAS system in the 737. It only operates with the autopilot off and the flaps retracted. As we get more information, I'll keep you updated here. See you here.